Hello and welcome to Women Waking Up. We are so excited to bring you this amazing podcast, which is filled with a bunch of different information from 4 top experts in the health and wellness field. Our mission in this podcast is to inspire and empower women around the world to help them step into their authentic power, giving them transformational tools. Each and every single person on this podcast has their own amazing and unique health journey, and we're here to share our tools and insights with you. We have Aga, who is the Holistic Shamanist. We have Lauren, who is the Detox Curator. And we have Sarah, who is the Intuitive Guide. And myself, I am a holistic wellness and mindset mentor. And we're going to be sharing with you over the next few minutes a little bit about our personal stories and how we can help you begin to step into your personal power. So I'd like to start with Aga. Go ahead and share your personal story.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here and finally doing this. So a little bit about myself. My journey to being here today started a long time ago, really, with my poor health growing up as a child. Basically, now that I know about Candida and gut health, a part of my shamanist is studying the gut and the microbes and the fungal pathogens that live in there and affect our life day to day. And I grew up not knowing about this, being very sick from basically birth, being given vaccines and antibiotics and developing, kidney infections, yeast infections, chronic sinus infections, ear infections. It just was on and on and on and on and on. Basically, since I was 6 to age 16, I was on antibiotics for about at least 3 months out of the year, sometimes 6, sometimes 7 months on heavy duty antibiotics, and nothing was helping. You remember at one point the doctor was like, I don't know what else to give you. I'm giving you the strongest antibiotics known to mankind, and you're not getting any better. And that was around age 16, 17. I was sick probably for like 7 months with chronic bronchitis and strep throat. And, going through puberty, severely depressed, but not really knowing how depressed you are, looking into the mirror and loathing what you see back yourself. I'm pretty sure, Amanda, you can relate, where you hate yourself, but you kind of think that's normal. You're going through puberty, all these emotions are happening and you're lost and confused, and it didn't get any better. I graduated, and being a young adult, you go into exploration of the adult world. So that means a lot of partying, a lot of booze, which further exasperates if you know a little bit about Candida, it's like fed by sugar, stress, birth control, which I was on for 10 years. And alcohol. And I was just living a very toxic lifestyle and working in the film and television industry. I wanted to be an actress, and going to auditions, I was up against other beautiful women. Like, looking at myself today, I can finally say, like, yes, I love myself, I'm beautiful. But when you are living in a really toxic environment, and the environment is your body and it's inflamed, you do not feel beautiful. You feel like garbage and you hate yourself. So going into these auditions where I'm up against supermodels and I wouldn't get the part, it would just destroy me. It would just prove to me that I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. It was these like self-perpetuating emotions that was destroying my self-worth. So severely depressed. I was about 21. I decided to go run away from this world, from society. And I traveled to South America. My family had actually moved to a little town called Vilcabamba in Ecuador. And I began basically my awakening, my enlightenment to shattering my reality, my mainstream reality, and being introduced to plant medicine and shamanism and energy work and emotions and the subconscious mind and everything that we don't see with our eyes. We see like 1% of the world, just one tiny little fraction, one layer of reality. And through my time down there, I began to experimenting with diets. Actually, my experimentation with diet started long before. I think when I was 16, I tried vegetarian, pescatarian. My family and myself were raw vegans for a while. And I tried everything. Urine therapy. I drank my pee. That's right. That's right. I did everything, you know? You know, sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But my journey really did start in South America. I was working at an ayahuasca center in Peru, helping to manage the center, training to be a manager, and lots of ceremony. And the chef, actually, Miguel, he was really into nutrition, and he sparked my curiosity about nutrition, and that how food affects the body, how food affects the mind, how food affects these microbes living in our gut. And so coming out of it, I was so excited. My life had began to transform because I was paying attention to my food. I was paying attention to my emotions. I was paying attention to my spirit and my soul, which is, you know, body, mind, spirit, the holistic view of our existence and our health and our well-being, which I know you, Amanda, are really passionate about as well. And seeing how I love being in ceremony because I love feeling connected, first and foremost, to my body and myself and my heart. And I realized, you know, I live in Vancouver, Canada now, the city. So many of us live here up in logic and science, which only gets us so far. But, you know, if we were looking to heal and better ourselves, we have to drop down into our hearts and really listen to what our body is saying rather than forcing our mental will upon our bodies. And so my journey has taken me through the conventional and the total unconventional, the conspiracy theories. Just, I like to go everywhere and discovering the little bits of truth and then bringing, you know, testing them out on myself and then, you know, sharing what works. And we all have different experiences, different tools that work. And I'm really excited to bring such powerful women together in this podcast and to help women wake up. It is a hard process. It took me, and still every day I keep waking up to new realities, to new ways to connect, to new ways to heal. There's, you know, light therapy, water, sound, vibration, plant medicine. It's a beautiful magical world. I started believing in magic again, you know, casting spells with my intentions, with my words. Abracadabra means my word creates. So listen how you're speaking to yourself. Listen to those thoughts in the background, those subconscious programs. Those are spells that were cast on you when you were 7 years old from society, from parents. And I view the world as pure magic, and you just need to learn to become a wizard, to become an alchemist, a shaman, to work with energy fields, to work with the medicine. Everything is medicine. Food is medicine. And yeah, that's where I'm coming from. If you have any questions for me to help direct my train of thought, feel free to shoot at me, Amanda.
Awesome. I think that I can definitely resonate with you. I mean, I actually met Aga, strangely enough, when we were both traveling the world, gathering more information about, you know, different healing practices. We met in India. And I remember the first thing that, you know, I was mesmerized by the knowledge that you had in, I think you had told me about MMS, because that was at the beginning of my whole skin-based issues, which I'll get in later. But you just have so much knowledge, and I can completely relate with you and your expansion and desire to understand that, like, healing and health starts with the body, but there's so many more layers. And I think that that's what all of us women here have so much in common of, and we all have a slightly different way of kind of expressing that, which is why I think that this Women Waking Up podcast is going to be so phenomenal. And no matter where you're at on your health journey, whether you're just starting or whether maybe you've been studying this for 10, 15 years, there's always a new way to look at something and a different alternative to healing that we may not really understand or have access to, which is why I think, you know, especially bringing in your shamanistic kind of understanding. And I love the abracadabra. When you said that brought a smile to my face, because that's something that, like, I've also been working a lot with, and it's really transformational. So thank you so much for sharing, and I love your story, and I know that everybody else is going to look forward to hearing more about your magical potions and how they can begin to cast their own beautiful spells too.
Yeah, and one thing that is actually new in my life is empowering the feminine. You know, we've heard all this, like, divine masculine, divine feminine, the oppression of the feminine, women fighting back, but, you know, what does it mean to be woman? Like, really, what is divine feminine? And this year I've really tapped into that and was like, holy cow, I understand. And as sisters, we need to come together and help empower one another, because there are so many broken sisters out there, and coming together as whole women, first to help each other stand up, but then to turn around and help the masculine, help the men. You know, so now seeing my work, I'm like bringing this, helping bring women together, just like this podcast, but really to also remember to help our men too. So I wanted, that just came to me in this moment, that like, as much as this is waking women up, it's also to be in service for, you know, for all of humanity and all of consciousness.
Woo, aho to that. Loving it for sure. Awesome. Thank you for that. Definitely. Yeah. All right. So next, I would love to introduce Miss Sarah, the intuitive guide. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal journey, Sarah? And yeah, let us know.
Yeah. So health-wise, hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. Health-wise, I grew up pretty healthy, except that I had major skin issues, which are gut health, right? So I think we all can kind of, all of us in this podcast can kind of relate back to our gut and how that really affected us, either growing up or as we got into, teenage years. And especially I think during puberty, your gut is like going through some major changes with the hormones. And that really affected me and my skin. And I grew up pretty healthy. My mom always cooked really healthy for us, and she owned a shop that sold herbs and essential oils and meditation and mindfulness. But the problem was that there was all these things, and I know for me growing up, we grew up in like a Catholic household, and then we also were spiritual. And so there were all of these things that were very like confusing for me growing up until I became a little bit older. And what this did for my health was I was really, really confused. What is good for me? Should I be vegetarian? Should I be vegan? Should I, eat meat or not? What is this? Is dairy bad for me? Is it not? Like, what is going on? And as I got older, because as a kid, I wasn't allowed to drink soda. I wasn't allowed to eat fast food. Like, I had these things that weren't allowed in my life. So as I got older, 16, 17, I began sneaking these really bad foods into my life that my mom wouldn't allow me to have, like riding my bike to the fast food place and then having to eat dinner. I would eat like 3 dinners because I would eat such shit food and I wouldn't actually be full. So then I would eat dinner at home. And that created a huge, huge problem with not just my physical health, but my emotional well-being. For me, it was differentiating that food was good and food was bad. And that is a really bad place to be when you're going through puberty, just like August said, and especially going into college and going into your 20s and having really bad body image issues. And within that, trying to be able to control what food goes into your body. And so that's how my health journey and my wellness journey started, was learning, why do I feel bad when I eat certain foods, not just physically, but emotionally? And why is this connected? And this is how I sort of started my journey, not only with my career, but also working with myself and learning to love myself and learning to know that food isn't good or bad, and that we can put whatever energy we want into food. And some foods make us feel good and some foods we don't physically feel well. And for me, it was finding out what were those foods, and then finding out that they're not all the same for everybody. And that was, I think, a big realization when I started working with other people, was like, oh, you don't feel well eating dairy, but I love dairy, and especially raw dairy. And that was something that I started getting into in my early 20s is I was reading Weston A. Price. And if you haven't looked him up, he's real cool. But I started learning about raw dairy and grass-fed meats and fermentation and all of these things that I had no idea about, and how they affected my body and how they also affected me emotionally and mentally, which is huge, is making this connection between my physical body and my emotions. And I now can see, as I get older, that stress is a huge factor in our physical health. And that is something that a lot of people don't associate with. And they say, I have this great diet, I eat really well, I know what my body likes physically, but they're stressed the hell out and they're sick all the time and they can't figure out why. And that is something that's huge, huge, huge for me, is like reducing stress. And it's not about sitting in your room meditating for 2 hours. That's not reducing stress. And I feel like that's what we get a lot in the media, is we reduce stress because we can meditate, or we just have to change our mindset. And it's not only these external stress factors, but our internal body and our internal thinking is what stresses out more. So like Amanda, mindset, it's this mindset of changing this shame or guilt or these things about our body, and realizing those are stress us out more than external factors. Especially if you look at people that live where I live in Nicaragua right now, and people are very, very poor. They live in houses where they don't have much, and yet they are almost completely stress-free, and they don't have anything. So what is stress, and how is that affecting our body? And that's kind of a big thing for me, and a big thing that I've been working on with my own health journey, is like, how is our internal factors actually really relating to our physical well-being? And why are these people in different parts of the world, they feel really good physically, but they and they don't have anything external? And so that's kind of like all of these material things. What is it really doing to our bodies? And so, yeah, and as I got into my mid-20s, and now I own an organic farm, and it's totally not just organic. We don't just not spray pesticides, but everything works together. So all the animals work together, all of our plants work together. We have different areas where different plants go, and we didn't cut down any trees, which is a really, really big thing when people start a farm, especially when you have livestock, is that they cut down all the trees. And that's very, very bad for the environment. And so for me, that's was learning about that, and learning and having this organic farm, and seeing how food is actually produced in a really healthy and sustainable way, and how our energy and our intuition can guide us to eat the right foods. And so, yeah, that's my story.
Beautiful. I can definitely relate with you on this whole understanding of bio-individuality, right? Like, you know, I've been in a very similar place when I was younger. It was like, I'm trying to do, and I think a lot of our listeners can probably empathize, like, I'm trying to do whatever is best, and I just don't know anymore, because one thing says this and one thing says that. And I think that's, you know, being the intuitive guide that you are, like helping people just reconnect with that you have all your answers. Like everything you need is within you. And sometimes there's just so much around you that you need someone to help you clear that path and clear that channel. And I think that, you know, sharing your story and especially with the dairy, right? And all of the knowledge that you've gained, not just from reading, but actually from listening and checking in. And you mentioned the synergistics of your farm, which is, you know, microcosm, macrocosm. It's just like the synergistics of our own internal and external world as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing and hearing more about, you know, how you help guide people on this intuitive journey. And I know that myself, I'm always learning. So I'm excited to also learn from you and how to strengthen my own inner intuition and guidance as well. So thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
All right. So, and we have this beautiful goddess over here, Lauren. So Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, Miss Detox Curator over here?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Amanda. You know, first, I just want to say, like, wow, how much in common do the four of us share? And just like this space, like, wow, our listeners are going to get so much out of this podcast. So I'm super stoked. My health journey started when I was young. I was about 3 years old, and I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So, you know, as a baby, you're 2 years old, you just think you're doing about your baby things. And then I received this diagnosis, which at that time necessarily didn't really inform what was happening, but it really informed how the rest of my life was going to unfold. And so I remember being, you know, like 5 and 6 and being at school and being like, Mom, look, I can blow up my belly so it looks like I'm pregnant, like bloating to the extent that you just knew that something was not okay. And yet, you know, I remember being at dinner every single night, and my mom's like, you cannot leave the table until you finish drinking your milk. And intuitively, something in my body knew, like, my body does not want this. And I would put so much ice in my milk that it would eventually taste like water before I was even able to drink it. And so, you know, my whole health journey really did begin with gut health and with an overactive immune system, in which my immune system was targeting myself for God knows what reason. And, being now in my late 20s and looking back, I do really believe that it was not just genetics, but also the factors of vaccinations and, different environmental things that were happening simultaneously that really triggered this onset of my autoimmune condition. And so what growing up, I had a really, we all speak about body image, which I think is this really interesting, uniting factor. But I decided to go vegetarian when I was like 11. I was like, I'm just not eating meat. And my mom was happy to, go along with it. And what I would do every single day is I remember going to Starbucks in the morning and getting like a venti chai with soy milk. And that would be the only thing that I would eat all day long. And, it got to the point where I was, I don't know, as like a 5'2", woman, about 70 pounds. And so I was, really severely underweight, and I was not nourishing myself in any way, shape, or form. And yet, I thought I was super healthy because I was, a vegetarian that was essentially just drinking chai. And it's been a long journey from where I've been looking at myself in the mirror then to now. And to be honest, I felt like I looked more bloated, more inflamed, more, in states of dis-ease than what I look like now. And someone that eats a lot of food, I often, out-eat my partner when we sit down for a meal. And yet I feel slender. I feel as if the inflammation in my body has decreased to such an extent that I feel the most vitality that I've ever felt in my life. And so, through that story of kind of, dealing with an autoimmune disease and then kind of dealing with these body image issues, I really feel grounded in what I'm doing right now. And so the way that I work with people, and I work a lot one-on-one with people in person, and what has come about is working with a lot of autoimmune clients, because that's essentially where my area of expertise comes from and what I understand and what I know about that health journey. And so, I call myself a detox curator, but really also a myth buster, because I think that there's so many myths out there in the health world that if I eat this, then I'll have this amount of health. And so, what I do with my clients is I most recently have been putting together bone broth and soup cleanses for them, which is 5, 7, or 9 days of a cleanse in which they're able to just not think about anything and just eat. They don't even have to dirty a knife, maybe a spoon or a bowl or something, but they don't have to cut anything. So it's just so simple, because oftentimes when you're dealing with an autoimmune disease, you don't have the energy, you don't have, the willpower to go to the grocery store and cook yourself the most nourishing, delicious meal. So I do it for you. And at the end of that, period, those people are feeling more energy, more vitality, more in touch with their bodies than they were previously. And then they're really excited and they're like, I just want to keep eating like this. I'm going to do it, and so that's what makes me super stoked about, the autoimmune kind of protocol. And that's what I work with a lot of my clients. And I address, as all of us do, we all address gut health and why it's important, and then all of the other environmental toxicity. And I think, Amanda, you and I really relate on this one. All of us really, but we've talked about it the most, just about how much our environment is informing, our body and what's happening and the experience of our body. And when we're living in this toxic soup, how disastrous we feel. And Aga, you hit on this when you were feeling super toxic and inflamed inside your body. It just doesn't make relating with this person with this outside world, it doesn't work very well. And so, aside from just the nutrition component and how excited and really, full throttle I can get on all of that, I look for different ways in which activities and ways of transformation make people feel alive and come alive. And I've been studying body work and meditation and yoga and all of this other stuff for many years. So not only do I meet people where they're at with food, but I meet them where they're at in growing, whether it's a spiritual practice or whether they're just wanting to do something to tap into their body. And, you know, I really write a lot about not just digesting our food, but digesting our experiences, whether they're emotional or whether they're not. And so having these tools to digest some of those emotions is something that I'm really excited about. And personally for me, singing and using my voice is one of my biggest strengths for that transformation. So through my yoga classes, mostly I share that with other people and chanting and really getting in touch with this space and their bodies. So
awesome. Maybe you can share some chanting with us on one of the podcast episodes.
We can do that.
Cool. Yeah, I actually just got done doing, it's funny because I just got done doing the bone broth cleanse that Lauren provided, and it was awesome. I got to say, I didn't even use a spoon. I didn't even use a bowl. All I did was like dump it out, heated it up, and it literally took like 3 minutes, and then I dumped it back into the same thing and drank it. Like, it was honestly one of the easiest things. So if you guys are living in the Bay Area, check that out. It's really amazing. They hand make everything, even down to the coconut milk, which was really, really great. And you might think that you get like tired of eating soup, but they have all these different ways to mix it up and make it amazing. And it just tastes so good, and it's so easy. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that continues to cultivate for you. And I'm sure those in the Bay Area are also looking forward to getting their hands on the brothel soups as well.
Yes.
Awesome. So that just leaves me, and my name, as some of you may know, is Amanda Biccum. And as I stated earlier, I'm a wellness coach and mindset mentor. My health journey started, I started also similar to Lauren. I went vegetarian for a while. And at that time, I thought that it was the best choice for me. And I think that it was in a lot of ways. I got away from conventional meat. I got away from packaged processed foods. And, as I continued to study both, in the area of yoga and energetics and healing with herbs, as well as deepening my holistic nutrition practice, I started to actually also develop, like many others here, skin-based issues. And these kind of skin-based issues came on and off a lot of times, like Sarah said, depending on stress. And it wasn't until probably about last year when I was really I kept interfacing this fear-based issue or this skin-based issue. And for me, I was doing everything right. At this point, I had dove into gut health. I had gone the detox route. I have this 21-day, detox program where I eliminate heavy metals and parasites. And I wasn't eating all the inflammatory foods. I was literally eating as healthy as I possibly could. And I was also meditating, and I was also doing my yoga, and I was still having this skin-based issue. And I couldn't quite figure out, I wanted, as a health coach and somebody who studies this and studies the gut microbiome and helps everybody else with their skin issues, I couldn't figure out why I was still having this problem. And it wasn't until I really checked in to my gut. And on a mental, emotional, and energetic level, I was at a place where I was living from scarcity. I was living with this idea or this thought that I wasn't enough, that there wasn't enough, and that I didn't have what it takes to get me to where I really wanted to be. And it was ultimately my mindset that was keeping me in this place of discomfort and dis-ease within my body. And it wasn't until I chose to tell myself a different story and empower myself that literally once I started shifting my mindset and moving into this space, the majority of my skin issues had cleared up. And so what's been interesting is I've noticed now, and I've tried to kind of pinpoint back if and when these issues arise again, a lot of times it comes from this lack of connection to my gut instinct, or more importantly, my mindset. I'm not feeling like I'm enough for this person or this thing, or there's not enough time. That's a really big one. I lived abroad for the last 2 years, which is how I actually met Aga and Sarah, which is a blessing. And then I came back to the States, and everybody's just going so fast, and there's just so many things to do, and it's like there's not enough time and there's not enough blah blah blah, and like really coming back to myself and my own practices as if I was living, you know, back in a third world country where everything is slow and I can take time. And so how I work with clients is helping people really address their mind, body, spirit connection and the role that that plays on healing. And oftentimes, you know, if we don't believe that we're going to heal or that we can't heal, more often than not, we create our own reality. And so we're sending that vibration out into the universe, and that's getting reflected back to us. And so I help people not only understand their own bio individuality, like most of the ladies here, and connect with what really serves them, but also rewrite the story that we tell ourselves, which we believe to be true. And so it's been, you know, it's honestly such a pleasure. I met all of these women, and there's such powerful pieces in the health and wellness world. I was like, we have to do a podcast because we just have so much to share. And I'm excited for this podcast because they have so much that I want to learn about. And I'm just really, really excited to bring us all together. And so some of the things that we have coming up, we kind of journaled a little bit about what we want to bring to you guys and what you can look forward to hearing in the next coming week. We will have one podcast every week that will be released every Thursday. So make sure that you're following us on our platforms. Either get on our we have a mailing list. We also have a YouTube channel. Some of us have personal private groups. You can follow us on our Facebook pages, our personal pages. However it is that you want to get connected to us, please, we invite you all to come in, share your thoughts on what you want to hear also on the podcast. And coming up, Olga and I are going to do the first episode, and it's going to be the mind-controlling fungus that everyone has and nobody knows about. This is Olga's area of expertise, and I had the opportunity to take control of my own fungus, and I will be sharing my experience on that journey. And then after that, is paleo better than being vegan? And this is something that Lauren and I are going to have a great conversation on, because we've both really been, I think most of us, actually, I think all of us on this podcast have journeyed into both worlds of vegan, vegetarianism, and now more paleo, autoimmune style. So we're going to be kind of just sharing our thoughts and ideas on that. And then Aga and Lauren are going to be speaking about water alchemy, turning your tap water into a healing elixir, which I personally can't wait to hear Aga's 6-step process. I'm really intrigued. So I'll be jumping on definitely to listen to that one as well. And then I'll be interviewing Miss Sarah on the emotional, what was it? The emotional, I forget. Getting naked. Okay, so basically it's getting naked, talking about like how to really be vulnerable and uncover your truth in this mind, body, spirit connection, like really getting naked and understanding what power that holds for you. Because like we all have shared, we all have had these stories of just self-limiting belief and doubt at some point in our journey or other, and getting naked with yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally to really be honest and raw about, you know, these stories and these beliefs that you have. So she's going to be sharing kind of some of her tips and techniques that she used with her private clients, which I'm also really excited to try on myself. And I think at the end of the day, that's what this podcast is about. It's about just bringing you guys, we are by no means like, you know, the absolute best and perfect when it comes to health. We're all still on our health journeys, and every once in a while I'll still have a skin issue or this, that, and the other. And it's just about really diving deep down into the root and trying on different ways and healings and modalities that is going to help us, you know, move beyond these limiting blockages and patterns that we've created over time. So
one thing I want to add to that, Amanda, may I?
Yeah, of course.
I really want to address that, you know, we're not perfect. And health is not a destination. It's not like, I'm healthy, I can throw my feet up and I can drink beer now. You know, it's like, no, every single day I'm working to stay here and increase my vitality. And it's not because like things that we're doing aren't working. It's because that life is happening every single day. Right? Like we were saying, like, I'm really about bridging the gap of unconscious and conscious, subconscious and conscious, emotions and physical health. And if an emotional trigger can happen, something can happen to you. And if you don't deal with that emotion, yeah, your skin's going to flare up.
Yep.
You know, you suppress that long enough, it's going to go deep into your tissues and cause cancer one day.
Yep.
So it's about understanding, it's like expanding our toolkit. So when life happens, we know exactly what to do.
Yes, sister. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that metaphor of the toolkit, that's what I give my clients all the time. It's like, all I'm doing is building your toolbox so that when life happens, you've got a bunch of different things that you can try on. And, you know, like you said, like life is always happening. And I think that idea that it's not a destination, we're constantly learning and changing. And I think that's what sometimes frustrates people. They're like, well, you know, 5 years ago, the media was all about this and now they're all about that. And it's like, yeah, you know, we're changing, things are changing, our knowledge is changing, and what we need changes. And you know, if everything was the same all the time, like it'd be really boring, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
So cool. Is there anything else that you ladies want to wrap up or say, any final words before we let our viewers go in anticipation for our next episode?
I just want to, you know, say thank you to you, Amanda, for really putting this together, and to all of you for showing up in your beautiful ways and speaking from your heart. And, you know, to all of our listeners, I'm really expecting, you know, all of us to grow in our toolbox, but your toolbox is to grow exponentially. And, you know, I think that this is really special because we're all sharing from really deep rooted experience rather than just something that we once read in a book and tried on once. So, yeah, really excited for our listeners and all of us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to be a wrap. This is our first episode. We are looking forward to bringing you so much more amazing, valuable information. I'm honestly, personally looking forward to listening to all the podcasts that I'm not on, so that way I can gain from you guys, because you all have so much wisdom. And again, we are open and we're growing, and this is the first of many. So if there are things that you, the listener, has that you want to tap into, that you struggle with, like, we are all open to share. And, you know, we have our own expertise in a different kind of area, but it's all going towards the same thing. So if you have a question, if there's something you want to know about, learn about, share, please let us know. We will definitely honor your thoughts and ideas, and how we can all grow truly together as one collective consciousness. So thank you all. Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your beauty and your knowledge with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Adios.